poetry is a way for the written word to come alive. It's a way for anybody and everybody to express themselves without having to go through a certain judgment. It's more free form. It's whatever you want it to be. The entire reason slam poetry was even invented was because people were tired of going into coffee shops where these white academic men would do poems for like 4 hours and no one was inspired or interested or the least bit excited about what was happening. And so some of the locals in Chicago decided to put together this game, this gimmick that would allow regular, normal people who are not at the academic level or the institutionalized level to come in and to speak their stories, their truth. And that included people of color, that included women, that included LGBTQ, that included many of these marginalized voices that you typically don't hear on the daily basis because the white norm is so prevalent in our country that spoken word or slam poetry was a way to kind of counteract those voices and to give stories that you wouldn't otherwise hear in an academic setting.
This was no holy water, colored black, orange, and brown.
$100 bills
Floating to the surface. To dream of dirty water means you are holding something that pains your heart.
The Dakota Access Pipeline Pass.
I dreamt of drowning 3 times underneath the sludge and profits of oil tycoons.
Suddenly I prayed for floods.
For the clouds to gather, but no rain is falling. Only tears of First Nations touching soil that cradles our mighties. No water, we drink oil.
Flint, Michigan
Left thirsty for years.
I dreamt of being thirsty to the point of suffocation, with no choice but to swallow what came from the faucet. A Lakota woman sings songs to her ancestors, told us the only way to clean the water is to pray upon it. You must learn to worship something
Before you can call it sacred, the only way to ask its forgiveness is to speak its name.
Our bodies are seas,
Complementing the sand that is our bones.
we learn to swim before we learn to stand.
In oceans the size of a mother's womb, we came into this world drowning and have been searching for a way to clear our throats ever since. We are nothing without water, godless droughts, empty arroyos that were once ditches, fracking.
Poisoned water on New Mexico reservations,
I dreamt of smoke and ash,
coal mines and nuclear plants,
black holes on politicians' faces as they laugh. They dig our graves, we gather, they lie, we fight, we cry, and they fill their banks as we die. I dreamt of reservations filled with tombstones.
Flint, a ghost town read in history books, the pipeline rising from beneath the ground. The more we resisted,
The bigger it grew,
so we sang our sacred songs,
screamed until our throats bled, prayed in every language we knew. Agua es vida, ancestors, send the storm, send winter to turn the dirt to ice, freeze out the enemy, send a stampede, turn us into buffalo, walk among us.
then the pipeline burst open.
Flooded the land,
Was it oil or blood? Everyone drowning with no heart to save us. We washed away with pride,
knowing it was our voices that busted the beast open.
Dios mío, es lo que pido de ti.
When I look at an Albuquerque Slam team, we don't sound like other people.
Yes.
What we write about doesn't sound like other people.
We have a very, how do you say this word? I can never say the word.
Colloquialism.
We have a very colloquial, I can't say it, sound in that we have a certain dialect when you come from Albuquerque, obviously. A lot of that shines through our poetry. Also, we're a very heavy city when it comes to poetry on group work.
Yes.
Meaning multiple voices are on one certain piece or one poem, and Albuquerque is actually fairly known well known for the group piece. We won group piece championships quite a few times in the national scene, A lot of our group work shines. It outshines other styles.
And people notice those things because I've had other teams come up to me and be like, "We're coming back for you next year."
Yeah.
And I'm all, "I
See
dare
you
you!
then."
I dare you!"
Come for us. Yeah, we're really loud. Our poetry is in your face. It's very fiery. It's very Southwest. It could be super emotional. It can be really political. It can be a really dope combination of both. And that's typically what we like to aim for with our work. And we also speak true to what is New Mexican, what is Burqueño, what is indigenous, what is Mexican, what is Chicano, what is black, and like it's a fusion of all of that put together through spoken word in Albuquerque. So that's kind of how our slam style works. Is we're very group oriented and we're very loud and in your face. That's kind of the Burque style. So.
President Eisenhower's Operation Wetback was not only successful in its mass deportation of 1.1 million undocumented immigrants, but in its efforts to draw lines on who was fit to be an American.
It is 2017.
A white man says he is building a wall and that we're going to pay for it.
No purpose other than its symbolism.
Its legacy, its message, its division.
100 days later,
And over 41,000 people have become ghosts in our own land. This all seems so familiar.
I imagine Lady Liberty
Wrapped in a blood-soaked American flag, she cries out,
Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. America lights its pitchforks and burns her alive.
Deportation means to smelt Lady Liberty into copper.
Send the liquid metal back to France.
It was 1954.
A sign reads, no Mexicans or dogs allowed. I have trouble determining which era this sign is from.
Their first stop.
My job, they take my coworker.
The next day,
Dishes come back dirty.
A gringa I work with makes a deportation joke.
She says,
Why couldn't they have taken the dishwasher instead? My grandfather hasn't left the house alone in fear he will not be able to prove his citizenship in English. He's been American since 1977,
40 years later.
still fearful of his brown skin.
it is 2017.
My student writes a poem about her father.
How he's on the other side of the wall and he can't come back.
Mama reassures her things will be okay.
No te preocupes, mija, tu papá volverá. How does one prove they are American anyway? By speaking American?
My grandmother sneezes at the doctor's office. Two white women approach her.
Go back to Mexico and stop getting everyone sick.
Silly gavachos.
How do you go back when you never left?
On a hot day, my brother and I shovel gravel.
Suddenly, you're screwing up America. Get out of my country, you Mexican mafia motherfuckers. Even now, my history book laughs in my face. Pendeja, there is no difference between 2017, 1954, and 1492. Swallows up people, spits out bodies. Our deserts filled with unreported deaths. Dreams trapped in the seams of the border. Dreams worth so many pennies, melting back to copper, turning back to gold. The alchemy of the wasteland. All of this sacrifice just so they could push us back. Call us wetbacks. They couldn't tie us all to Lady Liberty when they set her on fire.
So they're deporting our people instead.
And still, we are here in the land of the free, fighting for freedom.
170 years and counting.
Home of the brave, we are the brave, and this is our home. This land has always been ours. Somos más americanos que todos.
Our bones engraved with endless history.
Marches, riots, and revolution songs, but never broken, but never afraid. Set us on fire, we dare you. We have earned it.
The competition aspect, it's kind of like a double-edged sword because it could either bring out the best or the worst in you, and it could be, a challenge to really develop the craft of writing and performing because it is a craft, or it can make you really salty and really jaded. And I think some of the best performances I ever had, especially with both of you guys, are when I was scared shitless in the middle of a competition, in the middle of a panic attack, not sure whether or not I remember the words to the poem, and all of that fear and the relationship I have with my teammates puts me in a position where I give the most genuine performance that I can.
There's also a point where you don't care anymore if you're winning.
Yeah.
And this past year when we were at Nationals,
Our second night.
Yeah, Matt Brown. We knew we were gonna lose our
Right.
second night. We already knew we were gonna lose, so it was balls out, balls deep. We didn't care.
And that was the best night.
And Matthew Brown had to come out to his grandfather on stage right then and there, and it was a poem that him and I did together, and you know
Totally,
what?
like,
And that's when it stops
spur of the
being about the
moment.
competition,
Yeah.
because now it's something bigger. It's something that's gonna affect your life bigger. So I know that I've got to be his support system now on stage, because he's telling the world and his family something that they don't already know. So that means that when we're on stage, you know what I mean, we're homies, and that means when we're off stage, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, and me and Cedric are gonna take care of him, and
We'll
that's
handle
what we're
it.
gonna do.
And that's winning. That's really what
It really is.
That's really what you go through all this shit for in the summer, so that you can be a team that's like, hey, I went to the National Poetry Slam and I came out on stage to my grandfather, and he was actually fucking cool with it.
And then I met my partner afterwards.
and that's winning. That's
yeah,
like that's
yeah.
a
In case
poem.
you wanted to know, we're really
a poem,
good.
like a poem opened that doorway
Yeah.
for Matthew, and that's what happens to a lot of people, is that there are these doors that are opened and there are these doors that are closed, and the ones that are open you feel much more relieved, and the ones that are closed, it's just another stepping stone that you get over. And who would have thought that a poem could create
so
such
much.
madness or chaos
Yeah.
for your life in either a really positive way or negative way? But that's the power of your words, right? So that's why we do what we do.
It's all emotional. Like I feel things.
It's so
I
emotional.
also- Rivers like veins.
Carrying sacred sangre throughout the body of the ground.
Wind carrying a voice, singing a prayer,
Asking the ancestors to protect the land, to return the water, so we can be brought back to life.